Hey, everybody. Hope this finds you doing well. We have touched 20 million Bitcoin out in circulation. The 20 millionth Bitcoin was mined over the past week. So now there is officially 1 million, or really now less than 1 million left to be mined. And according to calculations and the mining schedule, the last Bitcoin wouldn't be mined until around 2140. So you can see here that about 95% of Bitcoin has now been issued. And so this is when we really get to the point of scarcity. Basically, the majority, obviously, of Bitcoin is now out in existence. And so everyone's clamoring for these 20 million Bitcoin. And we're noticing, particularly during this bear market, that institutions are piling in. They're coming in drastically, and a lot of retail is selling to the institutions, the so called smart money. And so, what we want to make sure that we do is not only entertain, but also hopefully educate as we talk about the opportunities that Bitcoin could provide in the future and how it can be a store of value, how it can also be a way to improve your financial situation over time, particularly if you look at Bitcoin's history. Obviously, it's not going to be the same the next 17 years as it was the last 17 years, particularly since Bitcoin initially traded as cents. And now, obviously, it's in and around $70,000. So to make that leap from being less than a dollar to $70,000 in 17 years is incredible and one of the best performing assets of all time. But we still believe, given our research and the learnings that we continue to take with us along the way, Bitcoin still has the opportunity to grow exponentially. So that's why we're here. Let's go ahead and continue to jump right into it. So as you can see, Bitcoin has now mined 20 million coins, and the remaining 1 million won't arrive, as I mentioned earlier, until 2140. You can see the milestone reinforces how economics of Bitcoin are different from traditional currency systems like the dollar, which allows governments to always print more money. And that's one of the reasons why Bitcoin has such an amazing use case as so-called hard money, because it's algorithmic, it's programmed. There will only be 21 million, excuse me. And when it comes to fiat currencies like the USD, for example, it can be printed, and it has been printed. And as we know, inflation continues year over year over year. And we'll get to that in a moment. We had CPI over the past week as well, and we're still in that 2% range. Basically, year over year, goods and services averaged out has been inflated by at least 2%. Now, we know when we go down the grocery store aisle, when we go to the gas station, when, we go to pay our insurance bill, that it's up way more than 2%. So sometimes people have issues with the way that these numbers are formulated. But regardless, we do know that over time, money's being printed. So the dollar today is not worth what a dollar was 10, 15, 20 years ago. We see that in home prices. We see that in so many different things. So there's so many different examples of that. But with Bitcoin being so-called hard money, because we know that there's only going to be 21 million, and especially for the next, 20, 30, 40 years, it's going to be around 20 million plus. And so everyone is basically only getting access to that limited amount. So you can see here, having only 1 million Bitcoin left to be mined is a powerful reminder of something unique. This is the first monetary system in history with a fully predictable policy written in code. And this is from the CEO of the Bitcoin mining company, Electron Energy. By 2035, 99% of Bitcoin's total supply will be mined, but it will take a little over 100 years to mint what is left. So basically, everything will be out in 2035. And so I think that's really when we'll probably see the squeeze, because that's probably when, it will start to come to the realization of a lot of the world that, because we'll obviously continue to see inflation over the next 9 years, next 8 years, 10 years, however many years you want to go. But by 2035, the dollar is not going to be the same then as it is now in 2026. Bitcoin will now have 99% of its supply outstanding. So people are going to be flocking to instruments and to assets that's going to store the value of really purchasing power. It's not even about necessarily storing value, but really being able to have the chance to increase purchasing power. That's what it's about. Because back when Bitcoin first came out, it took hundreds and thousands of Bitcoin to be able to purchase the median priced home. Now it's gotten to less than 10. I believe it's like 6 or 7 Bitcoin basically now to be able to pay for the average price of a home in the United States. So we're seeing that the purchasing power has increased by holding Bitcoin if you go in Bitcoin terms. So that's another thing that we think about is maybe we should start looking at purchasing when it comes to Bitcoin and not necessarily in US dollars. Obviously, US dollar is the global reserve currency, at least for now. Things could change 50 years from now, 100 years from now. But it matters when it comes to what you're investing in. What is it going to allow you to pay for? What is it going to allow you to do to live the life that you want to live moving forward, and what you want your children and grandchildren and future generations, what type of life do you want them to be able to live? It's all about having the freedom and the options to do what it is that you want to do. And that's what we're working on and what we continue to do, and trying to learn as much as we can about investing, about emerging markets, particularly about Bitcoin. So continue to stay tuned here at Networkchain. We really appreciate you sticking with us as we continue to grow with you. Of course, Strategy, the largest public holder of Bitcoin, they now have 738,731 Bitcoin at an average cost of just under 76,000. And they acquired those Bitcoin for $56 billion. And their latest buy from over a week ago, and I'm sure by the time you see this video, they would have made an announcement, because they usually do it on Monday mornings, of their new purchases for the week. But as of March 9th from last week, they purchased an additional 17,994 Bitcoin, one of the largest purchases, the second largest purchase of 2026. And a lot of it was boosted by their stretch product, STRC, as you can see here, is their perpetual preferred stock that offers over an 11% annual yield interest rate. And it's basically similar to a bond in terms of it has very low volatility. And a lot of people are starting to get interested in this product because it provides income and it has little to low volatility. So it basically stays around that $100, which is their par price. And as long as it stays around that $100, you're not losing value. So if it stays around $100 and you're getting 11% on top of that, then this is something that obviously is extremely attractive. It's being backed by Bitcoin, and it's being backed by this $56 billion plus worth of Bitcoin. So Strategy is basically providing opportunities, and it's becoming a digital credit monster when it comes to backing the amount of debt that they have on the balance sheet with Bitcoin, as opposed to an inflated fiat currency. And so they believe this is the future, and so far so good in terms of their ability to continue to accumulate as much Bitcoin as possible. So obviously we'll keep you posted on what they're doing. And as I mentioned, Stretch, there's a company, the first public company to actually put Stretch on its balance sheet, because of the fact that it provides that 11% plus yield. Right now it's around 11.5% currently. Instead of putting it into a U.S. Treasury, for example, which could yield you anywhere from 3 to 5% per year, Stretch is giving you more than double that. And so now we're going to see public companies begin to put Stretch on the balance sheet. So if they don't want to, and they can't handle the volatility of Bitcoin, because obviously Bitcoin is still extremely volatile right now, going from 126,000 down to 60,000 over the last 7-8 months or so. there's going to be companies that are looking for a bond alternative, a U.S. Treasury alternative that can still give them a nice yield, and Stretch is providing that. And also Strategy, they have a USD reserve, a dollar reserve, that covers them for the dividend payments that they would be owed, that they would have to pay to those Stretch holders and the other preferred stocks that they have on the balance sheet, that will cover them for the next 2+ years. So just in case, they have that reserve as well. So Orange is taking the first leap, Orange BTC. So we will continue to keep you posted if we see more companies starting to put STRC on the balance sheet. Actually, I believe Strive, which is a treasury company that holds Bitcoin, I believe they have announced that they have Stretch on their balance sheet as well. Instead of putting their cash reserve into US Treasuries, they have decided to put it into STRC as well. So you can see here that MSTR is number one, likely to remain number one, closing in on 1 million Bitcoin. Could they actually get there? We will definitely keep you posted on that. We're very interested to see if it actually happens. Maybe in the next few years, could be sooner than that, depending how well Stretch continues to do and how well MSTR, the common stock, continues to do over time. And that obviously moves with Bitcoin. But they hold the number one spot. We mentioned Strive here at Strive at a number 11, and we're noticing and seeing that, as I mentioned earlier, more institutions are buying into Bitcoin. So we have to keep that in mind, that the so-called smart money, the bigger institutions, the firms, the investment companies that are buying Bitcoin are taking it from retail, because retail is currently selling it during this bear market downturn. But really, you want to buy low, and if you choose to sell high. So we continue to stack. You can see the Bitcoin held by public companies around 1.15 million. And as I mentioned, Strategy bought over 17,000, almost 18,000 Bitcoin over the past week. They sold 571% of last week's new Bitcoin supply. So there's only about 450, as you can see here, Bitcoins that are mined per day per the mining schedule. And you see that Strategy actually bought 6 times that in 1 week. So it's being absorbed. They're going to be holding on to their Bitcoin, from what we hear, and what Michael Saylor, the founder of Strategy, preaches is they don't plan on selling Bitcoin, just continue to accumulate and hold. So when some of these institutions get Bitcoin on their balance sheet, that demand is going to continue to skyrocket, especially if there are no sellers. If there's no sellers, limited supply, basic economics, we know what happens next. Well, thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate it. Check us out on X as well as Instagram. Hope you have a great start to your week. We appreciate you. We look forward to linking up with you soon on the Network Chain. In the meantime, take care. Bye-bye.